Hi, welcome to Rose Red Homestead. Today is another video in our series of dehydrating food. This time we're going to do celery. And at the end of the video, I'm going to show you how to use dehydrated celery to make your own celery salt. And boy, is it yummy. So we will get started in just a moment when we come right back. I have started on the process and I would like to just take you through it verbally. We're starting with celery that just comes from the grocery store, and I always like to purchase celery that has a lot of leaves because, as you can see, I've saved the leaves. I have already two of these already almost chopped and in here ready for blanching in just a moment. But I love the extra strong taste that is in celery leaves. And so I do separate celery leaves dehydrating so that I can then use it in celery salt. So basically what I do to get ready for celery is I will take every one of these ribs off of the stalk and I put them in the sink of hot water, warm water. And then I will take a vegetable brush like this one and I will just scrub inside and out all the way up and down to make sure that these are really, really clean. And then once that I have them in that condition, then I just cut off the tops and the bottom. Now I save all of the scraps here because I will freeze this and add it to some other vegetable savings. And ultimately I'm going to be making vegetable stock with this. And I will do that in another video sometime later. But right now, this is the last of those two stalks of celery. And here I have my stack of leaves. And in this pan, notice that this is a colander. I have all of the rest of it, and I'm just going to add this to it right now. And so when I get everything all clean and the tops and bottoms chopped off, then I just will go through and chop it about like this. Being very careful not to cut my fingers. I'm notorious for cutting my fingers. I've done it many times over the years, so I'm trying to be very careful. Don't want any blood on the show. And then I'm just going to move these right into this pot. I'm not going to put the leaves in this batch to blanch because I'm going to be treating them separately, and I'll bring you back in just a moment. But now Jim is going to meet us over at the pot where I have the water already boiling so that we can see how to blanch. So we'll go ahead and do that right now. So Jim is showing the inside of the pot, and now he's going to show the boiling water in the companion pot. And I'm going to now lower this right into this boiling water very slowly. And once the water returns to a boil, then I am going to time it for 3 minutes. That is the recommendation of the National Center for Home Food Preservation. We don't start the timing. Notice that the celery is getting a little bit more green. That's one of the things that blanching does, is that it really preserves a nice color. This should come right back to a boil. That's why you don't want to do too much at one time so that it will return to a boil very quickly. All right, I think it's almost good enough. All right, I'm going to put the lid on this now and we'll time it for 3 minutes and then we'll be back. All right, this has boiled for 3 minutes. It is not cooked, it's just blanched. And I'm going to move this right over here to this sink of cold water, plunge it into the cold water and let the cold water run through it. All right, this is cooled down, and I'm going to drain it. And I'm going to move it over here and put it out on the towel. Oh, a lot stayed in here. Let me just reach it with my hand and get it out of here. All right, it's a rich, pretty green, much darker than if I were to have just not blanched it. Now, the next thing I'm going to do, let this cool for just a minute, and I have run the knife through these leaves. And I'm now going to put this into the bucket, and I'm going to blanch these for about 1 minute. And while those get started, I'm going to come back over here and start putting this celery. And it's still warm, which is good. That means that it will just be easier to get the moisture out with the heat already in there. And I pile it on. Some people put pieces individually on their shelves. I don't. I just schlep it on here. And then I'll put these over in the dehydrator. I hear the celery over on the burner, the leaves, coming up to a rolling boil. Oh yeah. All right. That's enough for those. And I'm going to now put these in the cold water in the sink. And those have cooled. So this blanching is a very quick process. About 1 tray per stalk of celery. And each one had 8 to 10 ribs, good size ribs. Set this one over here, and then I'm going to let this drain on the towel for just a minute. And put this on the tray. Now you'll notice that I'm not putting the celery on the bare tray. I have the liner on it that prevents smaller pieces from falling through. So I'm spreading this out. There are some larger pieces there, and that's okay. Try to thin these down as much as possible. These will most likely be done much quicker than the diced celery. Okay. All right, I'm going to turn it on, and I'm going to set the temperature. Now, right now it says 158. That is too hot, so I'm going to decrease the temperature. Oh, that's the time now. Down, and it needs to be about 125, 135, 131 is going to be just fine. Now I'm going to put the celery leaves in the middle. And I'm going to grab these other 3 trays out because I'm going to fill them with my remaining celery that I haven't processed yet. Now I'm going to set the timer. It says 7 hours. I'm going to put this up to 18, 19 hours. It won't go nearly that far, but I like to put it way beyond so it doesn't turn off on its own before things are done. So I'll be checking this, and probably this won't be done until in the morning, but we'll see how it goes. So I have these 2 stalks of celery yet to do, and with these 2 stalks plus the leaves, that will completely fill my dehydrator. And so I'm going to do all of this off camera, and then we will come back in the morning when everything is all dehydrated, and I will show you how I put it in bottles and vacuum seal it, and then we will make some homemade celery salt. So I will see you in the morning when our celery is all dried. Good morning. Our celery dehydrated all night long. It took about 15 hours for the last of it to be finished. These are the celery leaves, and oh my goodness, don't they look beautiful? They're just the darkest, loveliest green, and they're crisp as a potato chip. And that's just exactly how we want them. So I'm going to be loading them in the jars here in just a moment, and then we're going to make some celery salt, some homemade celery salt. But I did want to show you the difference. If you remember yesterday, our trays were just piled thickly with this celery. And now look, it is dehydrated down to just practically nothing. And my guess is that everything here, these 5 trays, are going to fit just fine in a pint jar. So very quickly we're going to do that. And I just fold up this inner liner. And I hope that you can hear how crunchy it sounds as these little pieces of celery are going into the jar. And so this will just take us a quick minute. I'm just always amazed at how little is left after a dehydrating process like this. And this was 4 giant stalks of celery. And our last one. This jar is full, and I'm going to leave a little bit out right here for our celery salt. This actually looks like about the right amount. Now, for the celery leaves, I'm going to do the same thing. These will pack much looser in here, so I am going to mash them down just a little bit. And I'm going to leave a little for the celery salt right here. So I have 2 jars. This one is celery leaves, and this one is just a regular diced celery. And these will be just really great when I'm making dried packages of soup to go in the meals in bags that I often do, and actually just to add to any soup or stew. Or the thing about dehydrated celery is that when it reconstitutes, you cannot use it as a substitute for fresh celery. For instance, I would never use dehydrated celery in my potato salad. I do need fresh celery for that. But to add it to anything like soups or stews, this is just a great thing to have on hand. And it's so convenient. Sometimes when I want to make something, I don't have fresh celery, and so I am able to use this in most things, which is really good. And then for the celery leaves, as I've mentioned in actually a couple of videos, I really do like the taste of celery leaves. It adds such a concentrated flavor of the celery. And because we blanched the celery, it did not take as long to dehydrate. and it will quickly rehydrate in soups and stews, which is one of the main reasons why we want to blanch. And also, it just preserves this beautiful, beautiful color. All right, now that I have these loaded, I have my Vitamix blender right here, and this is what we're going to use to make the celery salt. Now, celery salt is such a wonderful commodity to have on hand. Celery salt brings such a fresh flavor to so many things. Not only does it add the salt flavor, but that fresh celery is so wonderful on potato dishes, mashed potatoes, in salads, in soups, and in like deviled eggs, on the top of deviled eggs. It is just, there are a myriad of uses for celery salt, and making your own is just a lot of fun. And so here are the ingredients for celery salt. You use about equal amounts of celery salt and celery seed. Now, this is some celery seed that a friend gave to me. It is whole celery seed, and it is packed by Good Earth is the name of the company. And it is probably the best celery seed I've ever had. So I have a tablespoon of celery seed, and let's see, I'm going to start over on the recipe. I want to make sure that I'm getting it exactly right. You use about the same amount of salt as you do the dehydrated celery. So I have about 3 tablespoons of salt, and this is just this sea salt, fine sea salt. And then I'm going to put about the same amount of this celery. In fact, I might get a little bit more. And I am just sort of eyeballing it. With the celery salt, the great thing about making your own is that you can balance the taste as you like. So I am going to very quickly add these ingredients to the Vitamix. And so it is about, I'm looking at my little recipe here, it is about a tablespoon of celery seed, and I have 3 tablespoons of regular sea salt. I'm going to put about 3 tablespoons of the dehydrated celery. I'm going to add just a little bit more because I love that celery taste. And then about 1 tablespoon of the celery leaves. And this looks like more than a tablespoon, but it is so airy that if I were to crush this down, this would be about a tablespoon. Now I'm going to get my Vitamix going here because I want the ingredients to hit that blade and pulverize. And I'm making a powder. The first 2 ingredients that I'm going to add is the celery seed and then the dehydrated celery. And I want to do that all at one time while the blades are going so that it will pulverize. So I'm going to turn it on. And I'm going to turn it on quite high so it will really pulverize. Here comes the celery seed. That's making a lovely powder. I hope you can see that. And now I'm going to add the sea salt. And now I'm going to turn it down when I add the celery leaves. And I'm just going to pulverize. Pulse it. All right, let's see what we have. I'm going to put it in this little dish so that you can see it. And so here it is. It is beautiful. I'm just going to take a quick taste. Very salty, but it has that lovely celery taste to it. I am going to add just for taste, a few more of these celery leaves. And again, I'm just doing this by taste. I want just a little bit more of that lovely celery taste. So I'm going to turn it on and I'm going to pulse it again. Couple of big ones out. Okay. Just a few that didn't quite get powdered. And I'm going to put it in this jar. And so we have about a half a cup of fresh, beautiful celery salt. And I'm just going to stir it up a little bit, mix those ingredients just a little bit better. And it is just beautiful. Now I'm going to set these things aside. And I want to show you how I seal these up. So I'm going to move my Vitamix over to the side. And bring over my trusty vacuum sealer. Plug it in. Now, the beauty about putting dehydrated things in jars is that because these are going to last a really long time, and I want to preserve the freshness, I'm going to put them in these jars and then I'm going to vacuum seal them, because anytime I need to get into these and open them up and use them, I can break the seal, and then when I'm done, I can re-vacuum it. And so that makes it really, really nice. And so I'm quickly going to do that. Well, stop there. So I'm fitting my sealer over the wide mouth jar, plugging in the vacuum hose, and we'll start. And there we have it. Sealed and vacuum packed celery leaves. And I'll put the ring on, and then we'll do this one. And done. Can you believe that this is 4 great big stalks of celery reduced down to 1 pint of dices and a very loosely packed jar of leaves? And these will be such a great addition to our shelves here, and we'll have enough, probably for several months, and then I'll be doing some more celery. I like to do it and not keep it way too long so that the flavor does not dissipate. So that is all there is to dehydrating celery. And I hope that you've enjoyed this, and we'll be back very shortly with another dehydrating video. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time.